Ladies and gentlemen, author Virginia Woolf once said back in 1928, a woman must have money and a room of one's own if she has to write fiction. What she meant was that a woman must have her own space where she can be comfortable, at ease, and be free to do her own work. Now let's talk about childbirth. Becoming a parent, most of us would agree, can be the most exciting as well as the most terrifying times of one's life. The birth of a baby is a life-changing moment, one that is bound by love and hope. And if you're a mother, you would know that nothing else matches the moment when you lay your eyes on your baby for the first time. But if you're a working mother, I'm sure you've had some or all of the concerns that I'm about to list out right now. Will I be able to rejoin work once the maternity leave ends? Will my promotion be affected by this maternity break? Will my male colleagues get more appraisal than me? How will I balance taking care of the baby and office work? Who will look after my child when I'm at work? All of these very legitimate concerns amid your body still recovering from a 9-month-long pregnancy and a harder childbirth, possible postpartum depression, sleepless nights, understanding the baby's needs and your own needs. Why am I talking about all of this today? Because in a rather progressive and helpful step, the City Group is giving its female employees in India an option to work from home for 1 year after their 26-week maternity leave ends. Expecting mothers can also work from home in their last trimester. This, remember, the company says, is an effort to retain its women workforce. Remember, this comes at a time when women with children under the age of 6 make up for about 49% of the workforce around the world, as opposed to 97.2% men who have children under the age of 6. And after motherhood, in India, 50% of the working women leave their jobs to take care of their children by the age of 30. 73% new mothers leave their jobs completely after becoming mothers. Now, a lot of women are rejoicing at this decision and want other employers to provide such flexibility as well. But there are several others who suggest that the pressure on women will increase with this kind of an option, because then they'll have to look after the baby, her own self, her own work, and of course the household chores that she's expected to do. What do women think about it? I take this debate to my guests tonight. I'm joined by Rituparna Chakraborty, co-founder and director of Team Lease; Sonica Aron, founder Marching Sheep; Talish Ray, advocate; and Sikander, columnist, joins us. All of you women, good evening, namaskar. Thank you very much for talking with Mirror Now. Zainab, I'll come to you first because you're a new mother. You, I believe, have a 9-month-old little baby girl. First of all, congratulations to you and your husband.
Thank you.
You know, what do you think of this decision, Zainab? What do you make of this decision? Do you find it helpful? Do you think it's going to increase the pressure on women?
It's extremely helpful. Trust me, I am in the throes of, being a new mom and taking care of a newborn and now, an infant who's soon going to be a toddler. And the amount of healing that I needed and also that my baby needed, because we often forget that children are also developing at such a fast pace that they constantly need the care and attention of the mother. Now, besides the basic stuff that we speak of, household chores, mother healing, postpartum, depression, postpartum healing, and the child needing, the mother, be it even breastfeeding or a formula-fed baby, leaving all this aside, there's actually real scientific research behind a mother and a child being together once the baby is born and up till 6 months. And the reason for that is that the mother and the child both, their cortisol levels, which is basically their stress hormone, it increases a lot when the mother and child are away from each other. And this is up to 6 months, and there's very little research on this, but the research that has been done shows that the stress increases if the mother and the child are away. So it's not only sad that a mother has to be away from a young child, it's also very bad health wise and psychology wise, for a mother to be away from a child. So it's one of the best things I have actually heard that has been implemented in, an industry, which is cutthroat, which is the banking industry. And it will actually give a better opportunity to women to, show their talent while they're working from home. I mean, COVID showed us that working from home is actually something very practical and real. So why not extend it to women, who want to be mothers, but at the same time don't want to, waste their talent and waste their aspirations or, their dreams. So it's a really welcome policy, and I hope more workplaces and industries take it up and give this kind of, maternity leave and maternity opportunity. Once a woman becomes a mother, to women.
Okay. Sonica, coming to you, what do you think of this decision? Zainab said that in her own, through her own experience, she has felt that this is a great decision. This is going to help mothers, and why not? While you're taking care of your baby, you also get to continue with your work. You don't need to take a break as we have conventionally after becoming mothers. We go on that break and we have that fear that, we're lagging behind from our male counterparts. So women who have not become mothers, they've gone ahead and we've just sort of taken that professional break and we've lagged behind.
Is that a question for me? Hello?
So this is for Sonica.
Sorry, did you ask? Yeah,
Sonica,
sorry.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Yes.
you, but your voice broke in between, so I wasn't very
Sonica,
clear
go
if
ahead,
you'd
please.
asked. Yeah. So I'm a little conflicted on this issue. First of all, I think the way it has been presented is that it is in line with a government advisory, which came out in the year 21. When COVID wave 2 was in place. So it had come out, the advisory had come out saying that it should protect vulnerable pregnant women or feeding women against COVID infection. So, and it was an advisory saying that state governments should work with employers, and in case there are positions which lend themselves to work from home, this facility should be extended to those nursing women. So that is one. Second, I believe that when you extend this to only women who are nursing only after maternity, you somewhere fortify the stereotype that parenting is only a woman's job. All the effort which is being done to say that a man or a father is equally responsible for parenting, all the work which is being done to say let's have parental leave and not just maternity leave, all the work which is being said, done to say, why just have the term working mothers when there is no term called working fathers? All of that will go to naught. All the stereotypes that are there around working women will go to naught, and we'll go 10 steps back with decisions like this. See, it is not just about having women representation. It is about equity and inclusion. When we have policies which create a tacit divide between the two genders, We cannot have two genders coexisting. Tomorrow, a man might say that, listen, I want to be responsible for my child after 6 months. Why can't I have work from home? I travel from very far. I want to take care or be or partake in parenting. Even I want work from home.
Yeah.
Is that making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Fair point, Sonica. Yes, absolutely. It is making sense, and it is making good sense. In fact, while I was, reading up on this and talking to people about this, I talked to a lot of my own female friends who are mothers, and they had this point too. They said that it's a great decision, it should come about, but what about the responsibility of the fathers? Why are not they also held as much responsible as the mother? Rituparna, do you agree with this? Also, do you think that, because you come from Team Lease, which is a job portal, do you see that kind of discrimination taking place among, women while recruiting women, that if a recruiter sees that you're a new mother or you are a mother, if at all you're a mother at all, that sort of reservation still exists in 2023 when companies recruit women?
Thank you so much, Shreya, for having me on the show. Of course, at the sound of it, this whole policy sounds extremely interesting, inclusive for that matter. But I think let me just share with you, because I think my previous panelist did allude to it about the Maternity Benefit Amendment that happened recently. So at Team Lease, we did 2 studies around it. We did one, which is exactly 12 months after that act modification was done. And we followed it up with another one, which again was done probably 24 months down the line. And the interesting part is that if you look at it, the technicality of the changes made where India became the only country in the world where women are entitled to 6 months of maternity leave paid by the woman's employer, the mother's employer. Of course, I mean, women need to nurse their babies. The United Nations also talk about it for 6 months, and it's good for the child as well. All that is fine, but what happened in the process is that it did affect hiring of women in many sectors. I'm not going to say that each and every sector, but that in many and majority of India did see, and it's not just the Team Lease study, there are many studies which actually are suggesting that there did come unstated bias in terms of hiring of women of a certain age. Uncomfortable questions were being asked on account of that. So the reality is that while this is, of course, a great development and an initiative from the city group, but on ground, how much is going to change? And I do agree that that somewhere, of course, this is not something which I feel the onus is on employers or on the government. I think a lot of onus would be on women themselves. Because if they do opt for this kind of a work from home policy, and especially in organizations which have very intense office culture or work from office culture, there's a lot of hustle, inevitably, there will be an effect in terms of a women's career progression, even if you stay invested in the career. So it at the face of it, it looks elegant, but I think it comes with a huge price for women, and which we can't ignore. A few more statistics. I mean, after the Maternity Benefit Act, and I'm sure a lot of talk has been happening about the female labor workforce participation. If the intent was retention, right, then the women labor workforce participation should have improved, and even in the formal sector, but that's far from it. As a matter of fact, it dipped. So we have to actually consider what really women needs and wants. If we need to make them feel inclusive, if we need to have them stay on in the formal workplaces. So I think that's my 2 bits. So on ground, in reality, you can't ignore that there is an implicit bias that will set in on account of such policies. And women will lose out on those.
Yeah, and the kind of socio-economic barriers that still exist. I mean, we can talk all about it sitting right here. I'm in the studio, you're in your, homes or offices, and we can talk as much as we can. But the matter of the fact is that socio-economic barriers still exist, and we still have to battle them every day of our lives. But Talish Ray, there's also a counter argument to this, saying that, that the point that Sonica made, that fathers need to be held as much responsible and they need to have this kind of a leave as well. Now, we have the paternity leave, but, at the end of the day, it's the mother that the child needs more than the father. For example, in instances like where you're breastfeeding, now you can't expect the father to do that. It's only the mother who can do that. Things like these, concerns like these, how does one pave their way through such concerns then?
Okay, so I think I first want to come in on the legal point, because I am hearing this thing about, oh my God, there is one company or a few companies or organizations that have brought about this extended work from home beyond 6 months of maternity leave. And I'd like to draw your attention to the Maternity Benefit Amendment Act of 2017, wherein a Section 5, subsection 5 was added, which said that in case where the nature of work assigned to a woman is of such nature that she may work from home, the employer may allow her to do so after availing the maternity benefit for such a period and on such condition as the employer and the woman may mutually agree. So the first thing that I want to point out is that this amendment was brought about in 2017. We are currently in the year 2023. So 6 years later, this much rejoicing that's happening over a banking institution, as much as I welcome it, I would still say that it's a little too late, because this has already been provided about 6 years back. I also would like to draw attention back to the focus on what has happened in the 6 years and have we actually seen women join the workforce. What I did keep looking through the press as the press broke the news was whether they are offering any equity or equality to women when they join back or they're working from home in terms of reviews, in terms of payments, in terms of their promotions in the time period. Because that does become important. You're working from home, but hello, your the next increment or promotion or band will not come through because you've been working from home and you are on maternity leave. And let's admit it, that does become a bit of a bias in a lot of organizations that are privately owned and run. Now, so far as paternity leave goes, I think it's also important to remember that when a newborn is born, there are two parents that are born with it, a mother and a father. So insofar as the fact that, yes, the mother is the primary caregiver, that's where our laws look at 6 months of leave that has been mandated, which is one of the highest days that are there anywhere in the world. But paternity leave becomes important in as much as who's going to support the mother as she supports a newborn and herself. So therefore, I think when we look at questions of equality or we look at getting women back into the workforce or allowing them to be back, and let's keep in mind that women both in rural areas as well as urban areas are less than 20% of the workforce. So at any point in time, these are all measures that have been taken in to be able to ensure that women come back. But the way that they are structured, as the other panelists around me sort of covered, is that it inherently, as a structural method, drives more barriers and actually makes it accessible. Also, in terms of what are the rights, how many women are availing it. So that remains to be seen whether women would like to take that, because a lot of the times, in terms of help and support, which needs to be provided in terms of the Maternity Benefit Act, which is that creches should be provided, facilities need to be provided. A lot of the times, those also go missing. So there's a holistic picture that is needed rather than saying, well, if it is for this one, should it be for that one as well? Of course, it should be for both parents. I mean, why are we thinking of depriving somebody who may not be by biology a mother, but is also mothering the parent as a father? So both those parties need to be kept in consideration, and that option needs to be offered.
Yeah,
but more importantly,
absolutely. And
I don't think there's anything new, because 2017, it's already come in. I mean, 6 years later, what is the great fuss about is what I am really conflicted. As much as I welcome the fact that somebody has go ahead.
What is important, Talish, and what's interesting is, you're saying that it's come out in 2017, but how many of us knew about it? I did not. A lot of women like me did not. And that's perhaps the problem. These things, these facilities, these provisions exist. For example, you mentioned the creche. There are not a lot of women who actually are aware that a company with 50 plus employees has to have a creche within the premises. They're not aware of it. So that perhaps also needs to be spread out. That message has not been spread out. And I'm not talking just about urban women, I'm also talking about rural women, and there's such a rural-urban divide as well. Zainab, coming to you, the talk of creche, would you rather leave your baby at home and go for work or work from home with the baby, or have a creche at office, leave the baby there, and as per rules, 4 visits for a mother are allowed to that creche? Would you rather opt for that?
I'll be very honest with you. And I'm a very ambitious woman. When I have a baby and I decided to have a baby, it's we live in an age where we decide and plan to have babies. So that's a very important factor also, that we should see that a woman has chosen to have a baby. We don't live in times where it's thrusted upon us to become a parent. So I would choose to work from home because it's in my own comfort zone. It's in my baby's comfort zone. I know my area's sanitized if I look at it, hygiene wise. And, when it comes to, even having help from other family members, it's easier for me to be at home. So rather than being in my workspace where I would like to be more professional and, not, take the breaks to see my baby in a creche, I would rather stay at home. And, like it was pointed out by the other panelists, the 28 weeks of maternity leave was already there and they've extended it to 1 year. And I am still pressing upon the fact that I think this 1 year extension of the leave is more important psychologically, both for the mother and the child. I mean, we're going in for too many technicalities, where we are talking about the actual care of the baby. But what I would like to see as a new mother is actually the psychological aspect of a mother being in her own comfort zone, being comfortable with her child, giving all the time that she needs to the child, but at the same time being able to work. And that is, I think, a very significant aspect. We're also talking about paternity leave. See, we don't live in a utopic society or world. And we know that mothers are the primary caregivers because most of us choose to breastfeed. And even if we choose to bottle feed a baby, we still need to be around the child because the bond between the mother and the child is biological. It's what God has created. So as much as the father is supposed to be there for the mother to take care of his wife, and then the child, it is very necessary to point out that it is the woman who gives in most when she becomes a parent. No matter how many people you have to help you out, it is the mother who has to put in the extra effort, the extra mile, to take care of the child. So this kind of a maternity leave is basically setting a very good example, like I said, for other companies to follow suit, because it will really help women to have it both, to have a personal life and to have a career.
Yeah. But Zainab, what about then the counter argument that for a lot of women, this perhaps is not a choice because they're not living in a nuclear family setup. They are living in a joint family setup where perhaps the work pressure, the household pressure, the household chore pressure might increase when they're at home. I was talking to a friend of mine and she said that, no, I wouldn't like to have it because then the general perception is that, okay, you're working from home, you're in your comfort zone, so you can take care of the baby, you can manage your work, you can also help in, small household chores whenever you get the free time. That is increasing their load as a new mother. Also the fact that, you're not getting a break from all of this. I was talking to a new mother and she said that, I would like some time for myself, and therefore going to office and having that space for myself is the time I get from my daily routine. So, we have these arguments as well. What about those women who perhaps don't have a setup like yours?
No, to be honest with you, I don't live in a nuclear family. But look, I don't want to seem elitist, or I don't want to seem like I come from a privileged background. But as an educated woman who comes from a middle-class family, I think I have that much of capacity to run my life my own way. But if there are women who think they can't and they have to listen to, the sort of the order of the home, the order of the joint family, then of course they have the option of going back home. I'm simply saying, as an option to work from home when you become a mother, it's a great option. And a lot of women will opt for it because, there's also this crazy pressure that women have on themselves that they can do it all. And yes, we can do it all, but we need our space and time, and we need our own pace at which we can do it all. We are not here to prove that we are superhumans. Women are as flawed as men, and we can't do it all. So, but for example, I am a working woman and I want to have a baby, but at the same time, I don't want to give up the progress I've made at my workspace. So that is the reason, instead of taking an extended break and leaving my job and then getting back to it after a year or so, it's better that I have an option of doing my work from home. And if a woman thinks that, she wants to escape from her home environment and go back to work, she has that option. So this kind of a policy is a win-win situation for new mothers.
I absolutely agree with you, Zainab, when you said that women are not multitaskers and they don't want to be champions of everything. I'm a complete champion of telling everybody that, no, I don't want to be a multitasker. Please, just one task at a time, at my own speed, at my own space. That's what I'd like to do. I don't want to be this champion multitasker that women are made out to be. But Rituparna, coming to you, do you see that divide in rural and urban? Now we have more and more women working. We have more and more women coming from tier 2 and tier 3 cities working in multinational companies. Do you see that divide really, where women, perhaps urban women, are able to make those choices for themselves, but it's not still as easy for women perhaps who are coming from tier 2 and tier 3 cities?
Thank you. So I think we have to remind ourselves that in India's biggest divide in the workforce is those who work in the formal sector and those who work informally. And incidentally, women employment, or rather labor workforce participation in rural India has gone up over the last 5-6 years, but it's gone up in the informal work, which means in the informal work, honestly, the Maternity Benefit Act or any such policies do not really apply. So they have little or no access to any of these benefits. So for them, life goes on the way it has been. So that clearly leaves out a very large population of Indian women who are part of the workforce from today's discussion and conversation. So honestly, this whole discussion is limited and restricted to those who are in the formal workforce out of the 10% of the whole country, of the whole country's workforce, who are in the formal sector, and whatever is the representation of women in that. So from that perspective, of course, I mean, honestly, this is like was shared a while back, that this was something which was always there in the policy. And while there has been sufficient debate and talk about the Maternity Benefit Act and its pros and cons, one must ask that why is it this particular part no one has been talking about? You haven't, very few HR heads or, CXOs in corporates are talking about it, because this is something that's an implicit way of saying that this is not something which is practically feasible. It's a signaling, honestly. So we have to pick up those signals that, yes, it is not, honestly, for a mother who's already a mother, a policy of this sort is amazing. This is like God said. But what I'm actually talking about is that what it does to women who are not yet a mother, and who are wanting to be part of the workforce, or who wants to come back to the workforce after their first child. Policies of this sort definitely affects those people. Hence, and to be honest, what surprises me is that countries who have much higher level of women labor workforce participation do not have policies like this. I mean, I would be surprised if some of these multinationals, I would be very keen to know how they're, doing this in, let's say, United States or in other parts of probably Europe, UK. So I think we have to keep in mind where India is in terms of, and women in India are in terms of their participation in the labor workforce. So I know it's a choice, and I completely agree with my panelist when she says that it's a choice that she has made. Yes, if you are making a qualified choice, honestly, no questions asked. If you know that I'm willing to take this 12 months as a I want to discount my career progress and I want to focus on my child, so be it, to be honest. But the thing is, a lot of women today are not in a position to actually go about this whole situation as a choice. I mean, there are few of us who probably are in a position to be able to call it a choice, plan it, have resources, support system at home to be able to take care of it. But majority, and majority is like a real majority who don't have that choice.
Yeah, and fair point, Rituparna. And what's also perhaps very concerning is the fact that in this whole process, the pay parity bit also comes in. And once that is realized and that is decided that the woman is earning less than the man, it's almost automatic for the couple and the family to decide that, okay, she can probably, let go of her career and leave her job and take a break because she is not contributing as much as the man is contributing to the household. Sonica, that difference also comes in when it comes to, women, working women, and specifically new mothers.
See, actually, that is where the vicious cycle begins. And to really play the devil's advocate, and I heard that the biological bond is there between a mother and child, and it's the mother that is the primary caregiver. I really want to question that, right? Yes, a mother gives birth, that is the biology. A man cannot give birth, a man cannot feed. But what stops a mother from pumping milk and freezing the milk and keeping it in the freezer and letting somebody else from feeding that milk if somebody wants to go back to work? And it's a choice again. If somebody wants to go back to work after 6 months or even before 6 months, I have seen many women, despite having the 6-month maternity leave, wanting to go back to work before that, because there is an important project or an assignment or a meaty something happening at work which they want to be a part of. So I do not believe, I think there is something known as social conditioning.
Sonica, I've also, had friends and family members, women, who have felt guilty of pumping their breast milk and leaving it for the child and coming to work. It's the working mother's guilt, whether it's or leaving behind your child and coming to work.
I will answer that. It is
okay, Talish, I'll come to you. Sonica, go ahead, and then Talish, I'll come to you.
Yeah, and that is because that is how we've been brought up. That is what we have been told from the beginning, from ever since
women feel more guilty.
Yeah, because that is what our response, that is what we are for. Beta, tumko bade hoke bachcha palna hai, shadi karni hai. Your primary responsibility, however educated you are, is to look after your family.
And if you're not the sacrificial goat, then you're not a good woman. Correct. You're not being a good woman if you're not making more sacrifices. Yeah.
And now what happens is that because I have taken a break, my boss sees this, my manager sees this and says that she is not committed enough. You've taken work from home, somebody else is pulling more weight. So it's all right if I don't give you this promotion this year, you can come for it next year. So now my peers are ahead of me. And what happens at home? 2 years later, 3 years later, 5 years later, when my child is having exams and it's the time to take a decision whose career is important, it's my partner. Right? And that is how the vicious cycle begins, Shreya. We don't even realize it when we become second-grade citizens in our own house. And we are responsible for it. So we choose. Yes, we choose. Okay. We don't think what will happen. I'm sorry if I'm upsetting a lot of women
Talish,
out there.
Go ahead. No, you're absolutely... Yes, yes, this show has popular as well as unpopular opinions being talked about, but that's absolutely fine. Here we have all the freedom of expression and women can be themselves. Talish, coming to you, you wanted to make a point.
Yeah, so the only point I want to make, there is a term that we've used all along called working mothers. How come we never use the term working fathers? And that's about the dictionary of choice, right?
Yeah.
Language is important. If you go back to the most famous working mother as a published author, J.K. Rowling, she said words are an inordinate source of magic. And therefore, those words become really important. So far as societal guilt and other things are concerned, I think Sonica dealt with it really well in terms of whether there are choices, whether those are choices that are inherently made or there are biases that we already carry within us. After all, when you go even to a nursery school or start with preliminary, primary, kindergarten material, go back to any book. Maa khana banati hai, maa ki roti gol hai. That's how early it starts in terms of genderization. And therefore, then the illusion of a constructed choice that is there. So nonetheless, but at the same time, the only thing I come back to as somebody who is, don't mistake me, I know that the 2017 amendment was not talked about because it is just not convenient. The choice was given to organizations choose not to take it up. And currently, even if they take it up, one of my favorite things that I often ask organizations is, why do they like to hire women? It's because most women come at a much cheaper cost than men. And they tend to work much better as well. It becomes a reality. It's a hardcore reality that women work harder the moment they're given an opportunity to, because they're taught that they can't get there. So at the end of the day, what I still want to understand is that as much as we are giving a significance to parenting, especially from the maternal side, whereas the assurance that the women at the next stage will not be overlooked for the next promotion, the next increment, the next seats around the board. And I think don't need to explain that. Just open any page talking about any symposium of leadership, and all that you ever see is a manual. So I remember there used to be a cutting-edge journalist who on Twitter or now X used to run this thing saying another manual. And repeatedly, organization after organization after organization would fall for that. Talk about leadership, you'll have 30 men, 1 woman. Where did they disappear? Where do the women disappear? They disappear because we have these structural biases. We have these inherent internal biases. And we like to fall back on the law as and when it chooses us. Even in terms of the language of the 2017 amendment, the choices that it gives, it says may, the employer may. There's a choice. You may want to do this, you may not want to do this. It is half-hearted even in terms of its commitment, though it's a first step in the first place. At least that provision has been provided. And in 21, when COVID came about, there was an advisory that was issued again by the union ministers for the states, saying you may want to look at it because you see it's unsafe. We don't want more people falling sick.
And what's unfortunate, Talish, is the fact that only 16% women actually advance post-motherhood, and they advance to whole senior leadership positions across companies. That is something that needs to be changed. I'm going to have to wrap this up here. But thank you, ladies. Thank you very much for coming tonight and sharing your perspectives. This is still an option for new mothers, so the choice still exists, like the choice exists for women to do what they like. And I'm glad that you all came and shared your perspective. Thank you very much, Rituparna Chakraborty, Zainab, Sikander, Talish Ray and Sonica Aron. Thank you very much for joining us on Mirror Now tonight. All right, with